All right, well, good evening and welcome to Majors and Quinn. My name is Michael. I'm a bookseller here, and I'm so pleased that you are joining us to celebrate Carolyn Bell and Paula Cisewski. I'm happier still that I was reminded of the pronunciation. We people with Polish last names need all the help we can get. There will be time at the end of the program for audience questions, after which the authors will move to the signing counter, which is the glass display case you passed on your way into the store. You may line up there to say hello and get a signed copy of the books. If you buy a book or two books, or I suppose more books here this evening, you are not only supporting the authors, but a locally owned independent bookstore, and we cannot thank you enough. I would remind you to turn off your phones. As speaking again from experience. And finally, let me introduce our guest. Carolyn Bell is a photographer, writer, and educator. Published works include Delivery, a collection of poems, I Heard a Fish Cry, a collection of short stories, Love's Little Triumphs, a collection of short stories, Eleanor and the Little Turtle, and Lala and Her Friends, bilingual children's books. Lala. She was the chief editor of Pieces of Work, 36 Sermons, Conversations, Stories, and Mystical Musings by Rabbi Sim Glazer, and the editor of a collection of meditations. The Joshua Poems was published in 2023. Paula Cisewski is a poet, editor, artist, educator, and curator. She is also the author of The Becoming Game from Hanging Loose Press in 2025, Quitter from Diode Editions Book Prize winner, The Threatening Everything, Ghost Fargo, which was the Night Boat Poetry Prize winner, selected by Franz Wright, Upon Arrival, and several chapbooks. She has been awarded fellowships and residencies from organizations including the Jerome Foundation, the Minnesota State Arts Board, the Oberholzer Foundation, and Banfield Law Center for the Arts. Visit her website, www.paulacisewski.com, for more. And now, please join me in welcoming Carolyn and Paula. Did you guys flip a coin for who gets to go first? Perfect. And I can absolutely hold the book up, or if you need any visual.
Oh, I'll just.
All right.
All right, thank you.
I have complete confidence in you.
Can we make up the chords and people can
Sure, absolutely.
forward?
And there's plenty more seats here.
Welcome. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? I am sometimes quite a low talker. Yeah? Okay. Hello. I thought that my laptop would talk to the AV and there would be some images. I am excited to read from this book, Ceremonies for No Repair, which is just over 2 months old. And it is poems, but it is also prose and comics and images and documents and photographs, because it really ranges just in that early pandemic time when none of us was only dealing with the pandemic, right, as a weight. So I might just try to do a little show and tell. We're a close group. I think you'll be able to see some of the images in the book. So I will start with a poem called Secrets the Dandelions Knew, which is in the book as a poem, but it's also as a comic. So. Secrets the dandelions knew as they came bursting through the snow in my dreams. I wasn't afraid, though they burst forth rapidly, tall as me, taller. I let them giant, wanting to see what would happen, the taproots feeding off his love rot, yellow heads shouldering the cold out, the mess out, anything not medicine out. The way he was leaving me, I didn't know I knew, a dream blooming, in which I knew and wasn't afraid. I was thirsty for bitters, for the earth to swallow whole what choked me. I wasn't worried whether he'd like the wild garden no one asked for. I liked it. I was amazed, out of scale, in a state of wonder, wonder which wants me ever faithful. I'm just gonna be the person who describes the slides. The next thing was going to be a photograph of my upstairs hallway that I painted, just dozens of giant dandelions because we were home and they were very healing for me. So, and in the next poem I'll read is the first poem in the collection, and it is actually outdoors, a little later and outside the house. So. A river can the way a body can. Here by the riverbank, everything's frozen, bare branches balance vacated nests, a squirrel leaps and belly dusts the ruts of cross-country trails. In summer, I took sorrow here to the river, dead marriage, dying mother. It was uncontainable, not unlike big farm runoff or dumb down gums or conceal and carry TikTok accounts. I saw a red fox here once, but not today. Mostly clouds, mostly other white people with all the right gear shooshing through the snow grooves. In summer, it was mostly vaccinated people jogging too close to unvaccinated people or vice versa. My private sorrow lugged along and tossed in. The river said yes. Yes, I asked first. Hey, I don't want your sorrow gushing downstream to my house, said someone, but emotions are organic. A river can thrash this one against a rock, dizzy it in eddies, and transform any feeling. I really must believe this, the way a body can transform when a body can. Last spring, my body could alter nothing, and so I asked the river. Yes, I believed in it. Hard to imagine in this later season, personal sorrow ever having trumped any collective grief. When I say imagine, I mean remember. Imagine spring, a river, a thaw that mirrors a healing, a bald eagle migration, all the returned kinds of green. Hard to remember how sorrow governed last summer, and hard to imagine whether the bottom feeders of the Mississippi below the current sheets of ice gulped up, then spat into the silt when, along with my sorrow, I tossed over the bridge, my wedding ring. The next slide was going to be, I know you can't see, but the way this book started was, sometimes I like to hang out toward the back, but sometimes I like to know how many seats, and there are many seats if anyone would like to move forward. So, you're very welcome. So there was a time when I had very little language and I was mostly drawing, which is something I've always done but never felt like allowed to take seriously by myself, I guess, you know. And so making these little books and collages and drawings and all of that was my way kind of back into language at this time. April 7th, strange dreams about my mom. At one point she was just running for pleasure, an activity she has never once done and would not have been physically able to do for the last many decades. I could feel the joy on my mother's dream face throughout my body, as if hers were my body, as if I were her. My mother was running through a lush green field of wild flowers, dandelions, daisies, lady slippers, brown-eyed Susans. I could feel the breeze on her skin as if it were my skin, as if I were her. Was she young? She was a child, and she was my mother. There are so many protections up and around the way I'm able to give and receive love in that relationship. I rarely dream of her. I think she rarely dreamed of me, too. April 26th or 27th, dug up so many hostas from around the yard and wheeled them out to a friend to load up in her van. Physical exhaustion as a substitute for physical contact. over 40,000 confirmed COVID-19 deaths in the US. I knew dandelions were magic, the bitterness of dandelions, the cleansed organs, the leaves are diuretic. But I didn't know how else they are magic. I learned in an online workshop on menstruums and tinctures that dandelions help us heal ancestral trauma, that they help us connect with our ancestors, that they help us recognize physical needs. What is my ancestral trauma? What are my physical needs? Today we find out what kind of cancer mom has and how progressed. The image that you will see in our imaginary slideshow is a photograph that I altered of my mother's birth mother and my mother's adoptive mother. They were sisters. And that's another thread that carries through a bit. There's a crown of sonnets, a royal crown of sonnets in the book, and I just kind of think you all know what that is, but quickly, if it's new to you, it's 15 sonnets, and they're linked last line to first line every time until the 15th sonnet, which is all of the last lines. The crown is called Mother Corona, and Sonnet 6 and Sonnet 7 are meant to be read separately and then as one poem together, as a column poem. Much like memory, yellow bud that was, sometimes I like when a person's forgotten something I've said, so I have the pleasure of saying it twice. How is your garden? She asked already early in the call. The light fades, I call my sister, say, Mom's dying tonight for sure. When I cry, my adulthood fizzles, still I want no consolation. The light fades, the world uncouples itself, not every time, not this time. In the morning, I call the hospital again, time proved me wrong. Our mother survived another night in quarantine, suffering still. How is your garden, she asks, suffering still. How is your garden, she asks again, again. Here are lilacs, iris, the lavender yellow of a new spring, dandelion, dandelion, she'd call them weeds. Pink roses, red tiger lilies, daisies appeared like goldenrod for bees, milkweed for monarchs flit around the purple, coneflower, balm of anise, hyssop, stinging nettle, doing my best to tend abundance, then like kudzu throttling the dogwood. Cabbage moths flutter hungrily and spurge, cannot be saved, everything cannot be saved or even tamed or even loved right. I don't know how anyone sleeps at night. Much like memory, yellow bud that was suffering still, how is your garden, she asks. Sometimes I like when a person's forgotten again, again. Here are lilacs, iris, something I've said, so I have the pleasure of the lavender yellow of a new spring. Saying it twice, how is your garden, dandelion, dandelion, she called them weeds. She asked already early in the call. Pink roses, red tiger lilies, daisies, the light fades. I call my sister, say moms appeared like goldenrod for bees, milkweed for dying, tonight for sure when I cry. Monarchs flit around the purple coneflower, my adulthood fizzles. Still, I want no balm of anise, hyssop, stinging nettle, consolation. The light fades, the world undoing my best to tend abundance, then couples itself, not every time, not this time, like kudzu throttling the dogwood. In the morning, I call the hospital, cabbage moths flutter hungrily and spurge. Again, time proved me wrong. Our mother cannot be saved. Everything cannot be survived. Another night and quarantined, saved or even tamed or even loved right. Suffering still. How is your garden? She asks. I don't know how anyone sleeps at night. I believe there are these prints of dandelions throughout, and I saw, maybe you've seen some earlier, and then shadow dandelions, and they mostly go around the sonnets. I saw my first dandelion of the season today. Maybe you've been seeing them a long time, but I saw my first one today. There are many poems called Ghost of Human Contact, and collages, and spring of 2020. It was on my mind, so. Anyone can transform a solitude into the site of either failure or creation, but don't forget to mute yourself or the host will do it for you. I'm at the kitchen table in a virtual work meeting, and I'm on my phone again, Googling what ex-wives do with wedding gowns that ghost the backs of our closets. Some shred theirs, torch theirs, hem them short to wear on their revenge bods, or fly the gowns like kites. Some gowns get buried, funeral style. This screen, that screen. My attention is often split between virtual spaces, which means I'm often more or less nowhere. Locatable answers do not satisfy. The meeting ends, the Googling ends. I walk through the park, notice two people. She's texting on a bench while he flies his drone over the baseball field. Imagine composing a eulogy for a gown. When my mother dies, she'll be given no funeral. So little traffic these days that city workers have cordoned off every other street for walkers so that when we emerge from our homes alone, we can walk to the park alone, cross the center line alone. I could give the gown to a child for dress up, but I need never to glimpse it through a child's imagination. Not to keep circling back to it, but yes, actually, to keep circling back to it. What even is modern love? After months of fretting over lack of ritual, I return from a walk and throw the gown down in the bin by the alley. Let it join the other trash in the dump where memories can't go. Generally, I want to repurpose everything, but I cannot repurpose this gown, not as kindling, as toy, as glamour, as charity, as corpse. Red gown reused only in language, which, like grief and trash, is everyone's. This is another Ghost of Human Contact, and I believe it was just another cartoon or collage, small book. So here's one of the biggest ones that maybe you can see from wherever you are. Ghost of Human Contact. What is memory? So many photos document peak moments from stories that slope low later. Time will give every story an ending. What are endings? I'm in the basement, clearing out the ex's trash. How's this guitar still here? Pearl acoustic buried behind married years. It was mine once, but I recall giving it away. I could only ever play Sinead O'Connor's Black Boys on Mopeds, which uses the same chords as Neil Young's Helpless, and probably a lot of other songs too. You think you're playing one song and someone tells you you're playing another. After the last bag went in the can, I didn't know what to do with the hollow sadness, so I drove to Home Depot and sat there in the lot, radio off, nebulously wanting, no shopping list. I watched the slow parade of people push carts, trying with vinyl flooring or leaf blowers to make their homes better homes. Just because you're right doesn't mean another person's not also right, but god damn it. I know which song I used to play, and it wasn't Helpless. It's not that time gives a story ending. What does any begun thing do but end? It's the new understanding of some particular endings. What is understanding? This was another comic you would have seen. It is called Per Aspera Ad Astra, which is basically through difficulty to the stars, to the sky. I want to remember how it was stationed outside at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., the Perseid streaking across the ink-wet forever of a quarantine, Looking as up as possible, it seemed that the whole world was me, and this meteor shower, and this night orchestra of insects, single-minded in their desire for one another. Just one wishable star falling after another, and my left hand lighter, ringless. I hadn't thought to notice until then. Thank you all. This is my final poem. Listened to songs that whole era when it never occurred to me to sing along. What are ghosts? Some black tar energy haunting my nape, according to a psychic. Troubles nuzzled, fears nestled, my neck craned, was a crane performing a verb with a long bird in it, not a machine. Kept thinking the same things and thinking they were new things. Broke the chrysocolla into 3 blue oceans on the floor. I was probably gawking at some morsel of the past again. Basically spent my days prolonging one silence by filling it fat. No matter how muted it felt then, most things amplified. You've got to clear that shit, the psychic said, if you want to let truth up and out the top of the bottle of you. Like everybody, I suspected that suffering wasn't helping quite as promised. What if Nietzsche had never gone viral with that "what doesn't kill us" quip? Even in that throat-locked era, it'd be a pleasure to go barefoot again through clover, I thought often, then opened the door to no field, only a back alley, only another night. There I was, shunning the moon, when that feral cat I loved from a distance skulked by to trip the neighbor's motion detectors. It saw me, and I saw it. We went from being 2 taciturn shadows to being whole animals, blinking. The sudden light wore our greeting like the dark inside its crown. Thank you.
Paula, do you want to take any questions or anything before I come on?
Well, I was curious if you do everything, even the comic.
If I did make the comments.
You did, okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious, thank you.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, we'll probably do both readings and then questions, make sure everyone has time for,
Okay.
I don't want you to get trimmed.
Paula, I really like your dream face. Where did you go? There you are.
Huh.
Dream face. I love that. And I like how you repeated some of the things. Just amazing. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you very much for coming, taking time out of your precious lives, as they are increasingly. To hear poetry, which is the language of the heart and of imagery. I'm sorry we didn't see all your beautiful. Were they collages? What were they, drawings?
A mix,
Mix of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
And since I knew a few of you who have heard me before would be here again tonight, I thought I would pick the poems from this collection that were not as rough. This is a picture I took, a photograph I took of Josh when he was surfing, and I don't know the name of the beach. And it's the only photographs I've taken of him surfing, and I'm glad I took it. Joshua, for those of you who didn't know about him, we lost him to suicide on September 14th, 2020. And it's been 3.5 years. But I also want to mention my sister Alex, who died exactly 5 years ago at the hand of her husband, who then turned the gun on himself. So I'm thinking of her today as well. I was going to light a yard site candle, but I don't know, it's a little tiny candle. May I light it in here?
Sure.
It's a memorial candle, so I thought I'd light it for her. I have one at home burning too, but it feels good to think about her today. three. She was the middle child. And this is for you, Ally. So, I won't say the Kaddish, but that's the prayer that, whoops, that's probably not a good thing. Just blew it out, but I'll write it again. Neither my mother nor my father nor my sister knew of Joshua's death. Unless you think they know of things. No.
There's a little stool over here, Carolyn.
Thank you. I don't know if this is gonna make it, but we'll see. Yeah, I'll put it there. Death weaves itself into the texture of our lives, and we've all experienced various people's deaths. And other kinds of losses, the death of a spouse, the death of a child, the death of a marriage, which we heard about, and what can any of us do about suffering? I think it's important to call them by name and to speak them aloud. There's power in that. There is power in speaking people's names and in calling suicide, suicide. People are afraid of it, and it's a terrible thing, but it happens. And I hope these poems help you in some way. I wrote them for myself, but I also had other people in mind when I wrote them, and many of them I wrote when Joshua was young. He was an unusual child in many ways. You would never have known that he was unhappy or depressed or anything of that sort. It wasn't until he was late in his 20s that he was diagnosed officially with a mental illness. And because he was also suffering from addiction, he had a double whammy, which is usually fatal unless someone seeks therapy and medication, traditional Western medication. This poem I wrote, the first part of it, it's called Spring Balloons. I wrote this when, the first part of it when he was very young, and the second part of it afterwards. Spring balloons. His bright pink balloon with a curling green string holds promise like spring flowers. He flies with it, feet skimming earth, flicks his wrist and grins. Our small son wants it to fly, so he lets it go up to the sky. And I cry, no! Chasing the bobbing string, trees take him out of sight. My memory fills to bursting and pops, swift as a dream. Our small son is grown and gone. He studies the art of film and other dreams, soaring in and out of sight. Outside there is sleet. Much of the world lies still. Another friend is dying. My husband stands under the skylight, says he'll kiss me once before he shaves and once afterwards. He's bright as the brightest balloon, and I'm afloat in a sky filled with floating balloons. His second poem is also about his childhood. Blue Ribbon Boy. On your 5th birthday, you run to breakfast like a colt. All legs. Clumps of mane stick up wild and shiny. In your eyes is the race ahead. In my hands, applause. So Joshua and his older brother Randy did something called freestyle skiing, which is done at high risk to the body and brain. And it also, it's the kind they did was mogul skiing, which is the bumps. and they fall and they break things. The kids do. And they're not all kids, but up to 18. So, in this particular accident, of which there were many, Joshua broke both his thumbs doing something called a back scratch, which is when they put their, do it with his arm, they put their skis up behind them and try to catch the backs of their skis up to the tops of their heads. It's a little nuts. Yeah, not a good word to use. I haven't always been there for you. Other mothers sprang from sidewalks just in time to right an almost fallen bike or serve as Solomon in squabbles over toys. Once a crowd of neighbors had to saw your spokes apart to free your foot. When I arrived, they hovered round like hired mourners, tisking their tongues. But this time, I was right behind you. When you fell, a blur, and then a small blue heap. Motionless, eyes slammed shut, blood raisins in your nose. I couldn't get my skis off fast enough. Wake, little one. Wake up. Don't let the snow god get you. What? Me call the ski patrol? I have to stay here, pressed to the icy ground, watching you breathe. Here they come, 3 stooges in slow brown clown suits and yellow crosses arguing technique of rescue. Hell, I can move faster than that. Your eyes fluttered, fixed on me. We bumped down slopes, coarse blanket flapping on your face, a shroud. Doctors fought like fools to claim you. Now you lie with broken thumbs and a concussion, hooked to monitors. I pause at each quick breath, my own pulse riding the rise and fall of your sheets. You dream of trees and jungle damp, swinging from limb to limb. You wrap your thumbs round vines in perfect brachiation, while I sit frozen in the shadows, rooted to your white bed. Your healing will be faster than mine. This I wrote in my head all through Joshua's childhood and then after he left us. All through your childhood I dreamed of you, falling through the cold metal rungs of a jungle gym. I would look up from below as you came down toward me falling. I would watch you fall, helpless, to catch you. You were such a precious child, too good to be true. Spinning and twirling, fast and furious like maple seeds in autumn wind, I grew dizzy as I watched you fall through the rungs of your life. So, Joshua had a kind of charmed childhood. He was gifted in many ways, and then he grew up, went to college, and when we went shopping for the sheets for his bed, his college dorm bed, I said, "What kind of sheets do you want for college?" "I don't know, Mom, let's go look at some." He picked out cars and trucks. "Really?" I said. Joshua held fast to childhood, the boy who claimed he wasn't sentimental. Sweet, sweet child. I kept his cars and trucks sheets for 25 years, and with misgivings handed them to the cleaning lady, who tore them up and folded them into a plastic tub to use for rags to wipe clean the dust. We have no more Josh, except a small hand-carved box of ash, the remainder of life now driven away. And now I want his sheets, the bright red car, the fat yellow truck, the happy blue dots. I want him back. His smile, his face, his heart, his lovely, lovely soul. I'm going to take some water. And then I'm going to take one of these dry mouth things, because I always get a dry mouth. It's a little tablet you stick up in your mouth. You know about these, Mike? They're quite handy. So, called The Proper Way. This book is in 4 sections, and I am now coming on the section that I wrote after Josh died, and it's called The Proper Way. We held him briefly on our laps, smelled the sweetness of his breath. Soon he grew to be a man, with a swift glance over his broadening shoulder. He gave a wave as brave as his smile. Step by step, he left us in his wake. The way folks say is the proper way all children must leave. Had we truly known how improper he truly was, how out of balance, how buckled, how bent, how unfixed beneath the face of perfection. It was not the proper way at all. Not at all. There was a gathering of lovely young people his age. I call them young, they were all in their 40s, who came from the school that he had gone to from grades kindergarten through 12. And none of them knew they were shocked. Some knew. Some few who he let in. But it was quite extraordinary how he was able to keep his secret. His color caught the light and split into rainbows. He grew the tallest of 3, adored and envied, a prize, gifted beyond measure. Spilling with talent, yet secretly unsure, full of mystery, humor, and abiding love. So, because I made a decision that tonight I would read things that were more uplifting, I decided that even though this book is really designed to honor him and to express my own feelings about the loss, I also know that there are things that people don't understand how to meet head on, and a lot of people said, they'll run away from me, they won't want to talk to me or to Eddie, you know, just, they say, I don't know what to say, or, you know, it's very disappointing, I have to say that. It's very disappointing when people don't say, I'm sorry, or hello, how are you, or they mention Joshua's name if they knew him, because it's much worse to have people's silence. Just so you know, you may already know this, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And there's an expression, I'm heartbroken, you must be heartbroken, I'm so heartbroken. I've never bought that. Hearts don't break. Born with few boundaries, he bounded over middle ground. His lens captured raw, brutal reality, jagged edges, the distress of extreme close-up. Sought after as filmmaker, which is what Joshua did for a living, he was a film director. A hungry fire burned beneath his tender soul. He strained to document burning fields, disarrayed with spinning spheres and insatiable dreams. Traveling solo on a treacherous journey, teeth clenched, jaw grinding, spirit dying, he drove down the darkest spiral of unknowing. In bold black marker up his forearm and hand, he wrote, I am a warrior. I am a healer. My soul will never die. Unable to wait any longer, or endure the loneliness, or disguise the pain, or stop the suffering, or mend the broken, he leapt o'er a ruined world, losing the battle he tried so hard to win. Left behind Spilling from the doors of his home were a dozen stage microphones, camera bodies and lenses in multiple sizes, thousands of vinyl records, amplifiers and turntables, surfboards and bicycles, hats and suits and shirts, like unruly soldiers lined up and sold in a few days online by a slick alchemist auctioneer named Phil, whom Joshua's ex-wife hired to line her pockets, melting Joshua's treasures into cash. Hearts don't break, they stop beating. Hearts don't break, people do. All that we love, we lose. All that we love, we lose. So I generally begin my readings with this little poem, Never Apologize. And I wrote it after I watched Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama having a very sweet meeting. They were sitting across from each other in two chairs and they were patting each other. Did anybody see this? They were just so sweet and they just kept patting each other and touching each other's faces. They were so happy to be in one another's company. Crying from time to time with both joy and sorrow, I suppose. I don't remember what the vintage of this documentary was, but it's a beauty. You should see it sometime. Look on YouTube. So I wrote Never Apologize. Don't cover your face when you're crying. Who shamed us to fear our most natural feelings instead of shunning embrace? Sadness and gladness, laughter and tears, spring hard and spring soft, welling up from the same source God gave us to feel. Dalai Lama in saffron, Arch Tutu in pink, stroked arms as old pals unabashed, first giggling, next weeping, like babies, like old men. No one said to them, stop. Honest love hides neither sun rays nor rain, so neither should you. No, neither should you. For the natural music of laughter or tears, apologize? Never. You know, you see in some cultures, especially women, are conditioned to cover their faces when they're crying. Don't let anybody see it. And people apologize. I'm sorry. Don't apologize when you're crying. It's good. It's good to cry. So I have a couple more poems. Let's see, what did I have? Let me see. Yeah, here, just a moment. Yeah, what happens to a soul? The chair's getting hard.
Yes.
Yes.
I know it. All right, just a couple more. Well, since I'm honoring Josh, I'll read You'll Never Be an Old Man, Josh. He was so beautiful, and you'll never be an old man, Josh. You'll always be a tall and engaging young man. Someone people turn their heads to see. With stunning good looks and a confident walk, despite pronating ankles and pigeon toes. That's a mother speaking. You won't have the pain of stooped shoulders and gravelly voice, eyebrows unruly, stubbly chin, musing over mischief and dancing down stories half conjured up by mystical you. You'll never be an old man, Josh. You'll always be elegant, stylish, and trim. Arms still strong and gait straight ahead. I wish you could be here to see Bowie grow tall. That's his daughter. To feel her embrace and those of her child, filling the rest of your life with love. And then on the brighter side, because your rear ends are getting sore. You talking to us, Steve? We all blow away in the wind, like milkweed fluff grown from seed. We finally yield to the soil, soft as pears. It calls for bravery, it calls for tears, it calls for strength. Others bear witness, their eyes full of love, hearts and souls encircling. We lift and carry one another up into a wilderness we have never known. We merge with everyone and everything that has perished before us. As long as our breath holds out, let us embrace every moment with grace. Thank you all.
And I guess, yeah, the easiest thing in terms of questions, if you had questions for one or both, would be sort of just a more casual. Questions?
What do you do with the dandelions in your lawn?
I pick some of them and print them. I get some of these. I don't get rid of them at all. You might not be impressed by my lawn in any way. But they make the leaves make a good salad, right? Sometimes, early.
Do you make a necklace?
Oh, I'm not a good braider, but I know that it
They
would be
make
great to
great
have some.
crowns.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think I need to get some more kids in my yard who can show me how to do that again. Thank you.
Carolyn, were you able to write right after Josh passed away, or did it take a while?
Well, he was sick for so long before he finally took his life, and I had a premonition, although he was so into his delusion that the last 6 months he wasn't speaking to us, I knew somehow that it wasn't good. And so I was writing then, and I had written, as I had said earlier, most of his life. Even though they weren't dark poems, they were poems of appreciation of him. And then, well, when, there were a series of deaths, as you know, Suzanne, but when my sister died, I wrote a whole book. That was 2019. Shelved it as soon as Joshua died, which was in 2020. And then I turned over all my devotion, I guess you'd say, to Joshua.
Oh, this is for both of you. How do you approach revision with content that's so raw and authentic to the moment? Do you find yourself traveling back to it and revising, or does it feel like it can't be touched because of what it represents or when it was written?
I'm pretty ruthless. And because I've been writing since I was a little girl, I'm a lot older, I think, than Paul. I mean, it's been a process that I've gone through, and I don't mind. So I'm not necessarily protective of it, but I know, for example, if I offer it to people who are kind enough to read it, sometimes those things are very helpful and sometimes they're not, but it doesn't matter because I'm pretty calloused to that, including to my own revision. So yeah, I think it's important. I personally think it's important to revise. I can't write without revising almost as soon as it's out of my fingers. It's starting to be revised.
Same in many ways. I can't, especially with the poetry, I need time. There was a long while where the poems just sat and cured maybe a bit before I went back in and revised. But there is something that's more like scrapbooky or zine-ish about this book that weaves in some prose and some cartoons that are imperfect for that reason. But I wanted to be a little more obvious about like just the collaged feeling of time and grief and continuation at this specific time. But yeah, I revised a lot.
All right, thank you both so
Thank
much.
you so much.
And now the book night, let's go over and
Thank you.
meet some authors and sell some books. So,
Go ahead.
Easy to cope with it.
well, a little, yeah, I mean, it's fine right now. But okay, yeah.
That's your
Yeah.
daughter?
Oh, well, those are.
Judy, as you know, is every person who knew her when she was your age has fallen in love with her and remained so.
I was gonna call you back because we were talking. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna.
Just an opening and and she wanted to I told her about you, I got him to tell her about and gallons in the floor. She says, is gallons still ripped and stingy? I said, yeah.
The one that you wrote
You're writing, you get up like I get.
That isn't. Did you come from one of the authors?
Yeah.
Which one?
Paula.
She know her?
Yeah, she was my professor when I was at MCTC. So I liked her class so much that I took another class from her.
Okay.
You know, and she said, you just got.
I had a hard time hearing that here. Well, I forgot my hair. I left them at home, I left my cape at home, because he was yelling, hurry up, hurry up. And then, you see, I know, did you have trouble finding parking? Oh my God. Oh, terrible. Hey, in fact, how are we gonna, because we should go do that, how are we gonna do it? You can't go down that street anymore.
No, you can get through 28th.
Okay, I'll figure it. When you wanna go?
Anytime. I have to actually go over there because I'm gonna have her do something for her.
Oh, when are you going? Should I try to meet you?
Maybe.
Or call me when, you know.
I was gonna ask if they do the folding, which would be really good. But, you know, what's his name? He only has 500 envelopes. Is that enough?
Honey, we're only gonna send out 300.
Oh, okay.
And then I just sent Ward Bell a text, and I said, did you get a lot of bounce backs from the emails? I mean, I think a lot of people are gonna be lost for our religion.
Oh, where is it?
Yeah.
Because none of us know what's going on.
That's a thought I never even considered. I want to. Thank you, I am. Wow, thank you. Thank you, sister. Don't be careful. Oh, don't touch it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
No,
Did you fall?
No, I broke it last time.
That's the one, Suzanne.
Yeah. I brought extras. I have, do you wanna buy this one or not? No.
Well, no, Majors and Quinn has all your books to sell you. They don't? I'm sorry, honey, what?
That's a great.
She said, yeah, I love both of them. I haven't finished reading the Joshua.
Joseph? That's her name.
Where did you park then, Suzanne?
Up Hennepin.
Up on Hennepin. I'm over on the next street.
You sure it was legal? There's a lot of no permit,
Well, I put my hand in. I was gonna park my handicap there, but it said loading and unloading.
oh no, but there's a couple up there yeah, they're handicapped only.
But it's a time for transferring.
Yeah, I think you would've gotten it. You know, first of all, we don't have any policemen to tag us. That's what I keep telling my children when we go downtown. I say, but there's no policemen to tag us at night. There really isn't. Yeah.
Also, I've got you are classmates. We haven't we like
Well, maybe, so I gotta do this little piece of artwork and I'm gonna have it printed over there so that I can, but I need to have a copy printed because I'm gonna draw on it, so I wanna make sure that I can do that. So I'm gonna, maybe I'll go tomorrow. I'll just call you.
Yeah.
And if you can go, fine. It's your time. Did you see flexible?
No, not really, because I'm working a lot.
Okay, next
Yeah.
week, what about next week?
Sure.
Alright.
So, well, who are you?
I don't know.
I told her, I said, it's like sitting next, she's got your body, you've got your legs, you know, I was like sitting next to you.
I need to ride home with her. They lied so much to her. Both Stevie and Eddie have lied to her.
About what?
What? About me. And so anyway, anything, everyone graduates to your house. And I said, that's because they eat and I'm not much.
Well, because we're building the.
So, and you met Rochelle?
No.
I don't think so. This is my daughter.
And this is because, didn't you have Shabbat dinners, or you did stuff, or? With Shelley would come, with Mom and Jack? I was listening to okay, I'm wrong.
You know what you remember, I think, about you, Suzanne?
I remember coming to your house when I was in high school.
From Colorado and one other.
I always remember that.
And
When Susie came.
I still live there.
Do you really? That's amazing.
did you walk here?
That they were moving across the street.
No.
So everybody's
Barely
working
make
to
it
get
from
it
where I
solved.
parked.
I could have, but no, I don't walk.
Where'd you
Not
park?
us, but insurance.
We parked like across the street on 31st. We just happened to find a spot on the street. It was amazing.
Carol will be there.
Well,
It might not be.
might not be.
No, but there's no policeman in the city anymore.
That's
That's
right.
what I told Shelley. There's no policeman.
That's right.
I mean, I wouldn't want to park in front of a driveway because they would call someone.
I'm gonna go buy a book.
Well, I'm going home and going to bed.
Oh gosh.
Tired? Are you tired?
I'm tired. It's been a long day. And
What else did you do?
what did I do today? I went to go shopping. I went to the gym. I took a shower. And I didn't wash my hair because I thought I was on that. And so